Hi guys, hello. Long fringe, still being annoying and long. I need to cut it again. Right, whilst we're waiting for people to join, I am just going to get on and do my interfacing. So I've forgotten to do that for my facing pieces. Oopsies. Apparently, I'm getting very confused with my interfacing. Hey guys. Hello, hello, hello. Good morning. Good morning from Argentina. Aw, hello. Hi, Celia. Hi. Got my Molly top on today, guys. I did have another little blouse on, but I was a bit cold. So, and it goes really nicely with this cardigan. Got Rosie online today, guys, answering your questions. Asking your questions, what was I saying? Answering your questions, if you've got any. Alex is working hard on the PDF release that will be coming into your inboxes shortly if you are a PDF Club member. So we are doing part 2 today of the Ultimate Culottes, and I'm making the version with the facings. If you didn't tune in for yesterday's, then you can watch that. It's pre-recorded. All of these live sew-alongs just get added to our YouTube channel once I finish and they upload, so you can watch them again, or if you haven't watched them, you weren't able to watch them live, you can always watch them. They're there, and it's amazing to see how many we've done, guys. It's almost 40. It's crazy. So I'm just cutting my interfacing out because I completely forgot. Now I've done it. So with where we should have gotten up to yesterday, these are the ones that I made. Here are the ones I made earlier. And we basically sewed up the seams of the inside leg and also of the outside leg. So here in my version, I'm making the palazzo pant version, which isn't a version, that I should make that clear. It's not included in the pattern, but I just lengthened it and made it a little bit narrower. So I've got these bad boys ready to put my zip in and to put the facing on. But before I get into that, let's do a proper intro. I need a haircut. So, thank you for joining me today. We are doing the Ultimate Culottes, which is one of our patterns. It's a PDF only, so you can download that from our website, and there's a link in the description box below. All of our sew-alongs are free to watch, but all we ask is, if you can afford to, you could buy us a coffee at the end, which is a donation page where you can buy us a £3 coffee as a thank you, and that will go towards helping us keep our business going and also continuing to do these sew-alongs. So this week, this is the last one of this week, and then I will be back next week, which may be a little bit hilarious because I will have Jasmine. I will have just moved into the new house, so I have no idea how that's going to work, but fingers crossed it will work. So next week we're doing the kids sewing on Monday at 1 o'clock, and we are going to be doing felt landscapes, then at 2 o'clock, although I might ask for that to go a little bit earlier because of Jasmine's nap, so maybe we need to do it at 1:30. At 1:30 we'll then go on to do the pansy dress, which is a poppy and jazz pattern, and then the day after we're going to start our bigger sew along for our dressmaking project, and next week it's the Sylvia robe, and I am going to make a dressing gown version. Now we have got fabrics. They may not be, Rosie, are they online yet, or are they not quite there yet? We were just waiting for the delivery, but we have ordered some fabrics that are amazing. Oh, Rosie will put a link up to them. So I've chosen from fabrics that I think would be really lovely for the Sylvia robe, and also for the culottes. I've just suddenly thought, Rosie, I forgot to say which one I wanted. Don't buy them all yet, guys. I need to go on and have a look. No, I'm joking, it's fine. But I need to get some because I'm going to make a dressing gown, and I was going to make it out of the Busy Blossom Silver, but I've used that recently, so I think it'd be nice to, not Busy Blossom, Wildflower. So I think it'd be nice to make it out of one of the ones I chose. Yeah, but there's some really lovely ones that I think would be lovely in Japanesey. Kind of like that oriental vibe, which I think looks beautiful with the Sylvia robe, and very nice as a dressing gown version. Okay, let's get going. Let's get going. So what we're going to do first is we are going to put our zip in. Now, hopefully you've made any amendments that you needed to, changes, alterations to the fit. And so now we are going to put the side zip in. Hi, Sal. So I'm going to open my zip out. Now, this has had to be a recycled zip because I did have a load of zips down here when I was decided I was going to do these sew-alongs. We got some bits sent to me from the shop, but I then, when I went back on Friday, I took some of them back that I hadn't been using and accidentally took a whole bag of zips. So there has been a massive, my mum's been like, emailing and calling everyone in the village to find out if there's anyone who's got any zips, and I tell you that it's hilarious. The zips, we didn't get any zips in the village, but one of my friend's mums had some zips, so I drove to her just down the road and got one. But yeah, so I used that in the sample that I had to make for today's release, which those of you who will be getting it, it was the spotty dress. Oh, spotty top. Oops. Anyway, and yeah, so then I was like, damn, I need one for today. So mum kindly donated a skirt that she hadn't been wearing that much, so I picked it out of that, and now I'm like picking those bits out. Okay, guys, right, so concealed zip, we're going to place the tape of the zip, the edge of the tape is going to go, let's start again. The zip is going to go face down onto the right side of the fabric, and we're going to line up the tape with the overlocked edge. And you want to make sure that the teeth of the zip are going to sit 1.5 centimetres or 5/8 of an inch from the edge, so that you're keeping the seam allowance that you have in the rest of the culotte side seam. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew one side and then we'll sew the other side afterwards. So just get this in, and I always like to use a zip that's slightly longer than what I need. It makes it a lot easier to put it in, and I often put a horizontal zip pin rather at the bottom like that, so that you can know where you're going to stop. So once it's down there, it's sometimes quite hard, and then you sew too far. Right, so we're going to use a combination of a regular zip foot. So on my machine, that's one of these. It's a free arm foot, and I just move the needle. But if you've got a Janome or Brother, then you'll probably have something slightly wider, and it clips onto the side or whatever. And then I'm going to use the concealed zip foot, which has got these grooves underneath it, and then you open up the zip and it slots into those grooves and fixes it. So we start off with this to just stitch it in place. Now, if you're a lover of hand sewing, you can always hand tack this and miss this stage, but I always find this is quicker and just as effective. Oops. Sorry guys, this thread, there we go. It really doesn't matter which side of the zip you start on. Any side is fine. And we're just going to run it through the middle of the zip tape, taking the pins out as you get to them. And I should have said, it's really important that when you put the pins in, you're putting them up towards the top of the zip, so that when you're sewing down, they're easy to take out as you get to them. if you ever try and take a pin out, like, oops, if you ever try to take a pin out that has the head of the pin there and you're going down towards it, it's really awkward. So this way, oh no, I knew I hadn't done something. I hadn't moved my needle across. Could have been a little drama there. So I don't bother with a reverse because it's really only holding it for the few minutes before you put the actual proper stitching in. So just be careful once you've taken the pin out. I do use my index finger just to really hold that zip in place so that it doesn't move. Okay, so I stopped at that so I can take that one out. I'm going to put my needle back into the middle position, put my stitch length back to standard. Oh, and I put the wrong one on. I'm going to put my concealed zip foot on. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll it, sort of open it out like that, and then slot that in. Oh, fab. That's great to see that. Okay, so rolling it out, so kind of like opening it out, lowering it down and locking it in. Now on these, I've said this before, but on these Baninas, I very rarely fault my Banina, but this foot is a little bit, the channels that it has underneath are a little bit small for most zips. So sometimes it gets stuck at the beginning. This time it hasn't, it's gone in nicely. Still haven't taken a photo, guys, of these ones, but I will do that. Tomorrow is my last day up here, yeah, I'll be mainly packing and getting everything sorted to take down, but I will try and sneak in a couple of photos of these and of the other culottes so you can see them in all their glory. And I was thinking about the kind of long-termness of our sew-alongs. By ours, I mean yours and mine, that we're doing together. What I was thinking is, I think realistically after June, or rather, sorry, after May, maybe June, it depends. I think things will be happening a bit more in June, so things might get a bit busier for me. But I was thinking I'll do them on 2 days a week, so say Tuesday and Wednesday, I don't know what days. And we'll do like the longer, so I'll probably stop doing the children's ones and I'll stop doing the kind of easy project one, but we'll continue with these ones. And then I thought, so fine, we can do that once a week, I'll do that. And I was hoping that I'll be able to do, I'll do lunchtime and then sometimes I'll do evenings. So those of you in the UK can watch it after work. So yeah, so that's what I was thinking. Then I thought it'd be nice to do a video at the end of the month showing you all the clothes, because the setup and the frame that I have for this is very tight. I know last time I tried to show you something and whacked my head, didn't I? But I thought I could then do like a sew-along roundup, sew-along makes roundup, because I'm going to stop doing the fabric haul and the makes, because I think that, you know, I've done that and that was great. So I'm now going to be focusing on these. So we could do these every week, and then I'll do a roundup of them all at the end of the week. So yeah, end of the week, end of the month, of me wearing them so you can see them. That's the plan. That's what I was thinking. What do you think? Oh, we've got a yeah. Good, good. I'm going down to do the other side of the zip. Right, so it's important when you do the other side that you don't let anything twist. And you also want to make sure that you're using the same point on the zip. I've just realised one thing I've done is my zip teeth probably finishing a little bit too high. Ideally, your zip teeth should be finishing below below the seam allowance. But because I took this out, I don't have that much extra tape there, so I'm going to lose the top of that. But it doesn't matter too much. Ideally, yeah, you want the point where the teeth finish, that needs to be just like a millimetre below the 1.5 centimetre seam allowance for the waist. Aw, thanks guys. Fab. YouTube's not going to know what hit them, all these uploads. We will continue then doing just that. You know, sometimes, you know, these situations, and there are a lot of negatives, as we all know, about what's going on in the world at the moment. But there are also positives. And if it wasn't for this situation, we wouldn't have discovered this, would we? I mean, I think I did think of doing an Instagram live, but I didn't realise YouTube I could do it. And yeah, I just think, thank you to this situation, because it's, you know, ended up giving our business a bit of a zhuzh up. We've kind of discovered something that is new in a way that's not been done already, and it really suits me and how I like to kind of communicate with you guys. And yeah, I just think the whole thing, and it's also helped my passion for sewing come back, which I hadn't completely lost, but I think it had just got, you know, I was only really sewing samples, and if I was sewing samples, it was at last minute and quite stressful. And this forces me to sew things properly and enjoy the process. And by properly, I mean not rushing them. So yeah, so thank you guys. Right, let's do the other side of the zip. Yeah, it's great as well, because our customer base now is so international. It's just so nice. So yeah, so nice to have that social element. Oh goodness. Oh, my earring. These I got from India. Oh, thank you, Kim. These I got from India when I was there in January for the work trip. Oh, and they're silver. Oh my goodness. And I can't get them in now. I've basically damaged it. I'm now going to look like a pirate for the rest of the video, it seems. Yeah, look, I've damaged it, and the clasp now. I need to give it to Molly. Molly is actually a jewellery designer as well. She's a woman of many talents. So I think I need to, when I get next see her, be like, Molly, anything you can do? I seem to have bent it. It's probably because I took it off and put it in my handbag. I'm terrible for that. I lose earrings all the time, because sometimes, as you know, I like a good earring, and often when you're on the phone, especially with some of the big flower earrings I wear, I can't actually, one, I can't do that, and often I'm on the phone and doing other things, but two, you know, sometimes it's just in the way. So yeah, they do make the yeah, I feel like, yeah, they are, they're very heavy. Anyway, I love them, but they fall out all the time because they're so heavy. Okay, so we've done that one. Now, because it's not got a waist seam or a kind of yoke or anything, there isn't anything that required me to line the zip up. I don't know if you remember with the Betty dress, I showed you that little technique where you snip into you close the zip and then you snip into one side to make sure that you line up with the waist seam. I didn't need to do that, so all I was making sure is that I lined up at the top. Sorry, I was sort of just doing that without actually telling you, which is not useful. So I'm just opening that zip out, rolling it back, tucking it into its channel. I've got my stitch length back on the regular. I've made sure I did a reverse. Now I'm getting some resistance here. It's not feeding into that channel, and like I was saying, it's just because it's just a bit small. Come on, Mr. Benina. There we go. Ooh, I can undo that a little bit more. Can I? A little bit. Yeah, I can. Always helps if you can undo the zip a bit more so that you can really get far down and stop exactly at the point you want to. That's why I like using concealed zips that are longer than they need to be, because then the puller doesn't get in the way and you can finish much more neatly and evenly on each side. It's all very well on the first time that you're sewing it, on the first side, but when you come to the second side, it can get in the way. Okay. So that is that. Let's check what that looks like. Oh, I've lost my tail of that. It's the only thing of pulling it down is sometimes you lose the zip. Whoop-la. Zip's definitely seen slightly better days, but not bad. So there it is. I'm not going to press it yet because what we're going to do is finish that little gap off. So if you remember, we sewed just up until the zips notch, but we left a gap so that we can close it. So what I do when I'm closing a gap, and I think it might be easy for me to just show you off the machine. So it's actually, I've sewn quite close already, but a pin here. So I've put a pin into the zip tape and into the seam allowance so that that's just moved out the side and it doesn't move. And then I use the single arm and I come down from the existing seam and then I finish about I kind of extend and overlap where the bottom of the zip stitching is, but I'm sitting in front of it by 2 millimeters. So it's very difficult to align it up perfectly. So you'll get a much neater finish if you allow the stitching just to go slightly to the side and sit in front of it. It's annoying that I've done this in black because it's going to be very hard for you to see. Oops, I've not got the right foot on. But I'll try and show you after I've done it to see if you can see the stitching. So I'm going really close in. And then just in front, I think you can probably see it where it hits one of the blue leaves. What that is there. Got some annoying stitching. Okay, let's see if I can get this. Hard to see that. What's happened there? I think I've just accidentally pulled part of it out. That was stupid. No. Can you see there? That stitching there is basically sitting in front of my zip stitch, which is there. And I'll show you how it looks from this side. So this is before it's being pressed. It's this little point here. So it's a really neat way of finishing it. And I think I learnt that from a seamstress actually. And I said, oh gosh, I think it was when I was doing bridal wear and I was really, so I can never get the bottom of concealed zips really neat. Like, how do you do it? I can never meet where my stitching is. And she's like, don't try and do that. Go above. So keep your straight stitch line straight, but just go slightly out. So slightly in front. So I guess if you're thinking about the seam allowance here, the zip stitching here, it's going slightly in here. So your seam is coming up like that. And it gives you a really neat finish. Okay, so let's give that a little press now. And then we're going to move on to facings. Da, da, da. So very gently pressing the zip. Now if you've used a fabric that you think might mark when you iron it, then you do need to use a pressing cloth to do that. But if I just show you now that I've pressed it, I mean you really you just can't tell where the zip finishes and where the seam is, about there. But it's pretty neat. So it's a good little technique, that one, guys. Right, so moving on to the facing. What we've got to do now is put our interfacing on the facing, if you haven't already done that. Do you have that instruction in your patterns? I don't know if we do. Rosie, if we got that on our stitch school? I think we have, but if we haven't, we need to put it on our Stitch School. But I have a feeling that I did that on the Stitch School. It's a sort of thing that's much easier to show in video. Rosie and I are planning to do some more Stitch School videos. I'm sorry that we haven't been able to upload any new content recently, but the idea with Stitch School is we're going to give you some new content every month. We do in the more recent patterns. Okay, there we go, lovely. And yeah, so we are going to be, now that we can kind of get back to work a little bit, and certainly filming is actually something you can easily do with social distancing, because I'm always here, and then Rosie and Eugene, who do the filming, are at least 2 meters away anyway. So we're going to be doing some more videos. We've got a couple of projects, new patterns, like little projects, a bit like the Bilberry and the Whitley, that kind of thing. We did a couple of those before lockdown, and then we just obviously didn't get a chance to film them. So we've got a couple of those. I'm not going to say anything before I know me. I'll tell everybody. And then we, yeah, and then we'll just do some nice techniquey bits as well. We had planned to do an overlocking course, because we know that a lot of you really want to kind of get a lot of grasp from that, and Becca was going to do it. She's on maternity leave, and we just didn't manage to get it done before she went on maternity leave, so we might do a little bit of it. But why is this not, so my facing is just not anywhere near my interfacing big enough. It's like it's shrunk. It's strange. Oh well, it's kind of half interface, not very well. This one looks good. Right, so this, if you look at this, this is the back, slightly more of an acute curve, and that's the front. Okay, so this is when I have to, like, special awareness, I'm gonna have to think about it. So if this is the front, as it's a facing, oh, so it's gonna be like that. When it's inside, and then so there we go. Got there in the end, I hope. So we are going to join the short sides, being conscious or mindful of what side needs to be open. Still not, I'm never confident that I've done it right until I start putting it on the waistband. Okay, so we have got a 1.5 centimetre seam allowance here, so we're going to stitch along there, 5/8 of an inch. Okay, pressy open that seam. Oh, my foot, there's a ghost. My foot's in, so I've just pressed that open. And now I'm going to just overlock the bottom edge. Just give that another press, because it's slightly, I've just noticed that's coming away a bit there. Give that a nice press. So yes, now overlock that bottom curve. Or zigzag stitch or pinking shear. Basically just need to finish that edge. Okay. Neaten off the interfacing as you do it as well. Okay. Please, 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 please have done it the right way. I don't know why I have mental blocks with these things. It's kind of, I think it's because I'm also not very good at parking. I think it's the same thing. Yes. It's fine. So I'm going to start here and we'll allow that facing to extend, and I'm just going to fold it back so that it's sitting about 2 millimeters from the edge there with the zip, yeah? So that when we turn it back inside, it's not going to get in the way of the zip. And then I'm going to line up here. Oops, got some threads that needs cutting. And then the same here, I'm going to fold that back. Like that. Okay, so then notches. I don't think I cut my notches in. What a surprise. How terrible am I about notches at the moment? Oh no, there's one. So the notches to help you line up, to make sure that you don't accidentally stretch one of the sides. Just make sure that where you've got darts that you pin them in place, because it will just be sod's law that you, when you stitch over this, you'll accidentally curl something under. So really important that you keep those seams pressed open and the darts going to the direction that they should be. I do need to trim some of this interfacing off. It's got a little bit stretched at the top there. I've got a little bit of extra here. I don't know why. I need to do a little bit of easing. Okay, and then carry on down here around the other side in the same way. It's probably good just to check and see what the situation is with the easing before. If you had to ease one side, it's likely you'll have to do the other side. So just check that what you're going to have to do. So I was up till very late last night. I was meant to not work, but I realised that because I'm leaving tomorrow, and this afternoon I'm packing and sorting everything out, there's no one going to be doing any orders, and we haven't been doing orders, as you all know, as quickly as normal, because it's basically just been Rosie doing the copy shop printing and me doing all the other side of the orders. So on top of doing this, it's been a lot of work to do, and so I've basically been so I was like, oh my goodness, I have to get all of the orders done up to date. So I basically did all of the orders till like 6 o'clock last night. I printed everything, did them all last night until about 1 in the morning. And then it means that, and then Rosie is going to, I'm taking the stuff back down to London, and on Friday Rosie's going to take the baton, and poor Rosie for the weekend, she'll be doing all of the orders. And then next week we should be back to some form of normality. So the Sew Over It team is going to be staggered, staggered into the shop, and because the shop is so big, even if there were 2 people in there, it's very easy for us to socially distance, and so I will not be doing the orders anymore unless it's kind of really busy or somebody's ill. But I have enjoyed doing them, but it has been a lot on top of everything else. And I'm going to be sorting out the shop, which is in great need of being sorted out. Right, so that's now pinned. So we're going to stitch that. Now I'm assuming it's 1.5 centimeters. Yeah, it is, I think, because I did that one. Yeah. Is it 1 centimetre? Let's have a look. So over at retreat. What have I missed, guys? What's everyone talking about? I've missed something. Well, that looks like it's in between 1 centimetre. I'm going to do 1 centimetre because I like things to be really high-waisted. A sew over at retreat. Oh gosh, can we have a spa in it as well? So basically, if I do the sewing in the morning and then the afternoon spa treatment. Oh, no, you guys want to sew all the time, wouldn't you? And then we could have like an amazing chef that cooked us gorgeous meals. We could go on big nature walks. Oh, that would be amazing. I don't know where we would do that though. And certainly in the current climate, I don't know how we would get around organising something like that. Rosie, we can add it to the list. G&Ts, absolutely. We could have like a little gong that somebody was like, oh, gong, 6 o'clock, it's G&T time. Ladies, let's go outside. Ladies and gentlemen, let's go outside. Ah. Go outside and enjoy a gin and tonic. Actually, this is what happens. Oh my goodness. Oh, guys, so when I'm on this live, I haven't worked out how to stop notifications from WhatsApp and things coming through. And I made the scrubs that I made in the tutorial. I sent them to my neighbour, my old neighbour from the house where I used to live, because she's a nurse and she's normally a community nurse, but she had been moved to the ICU ward in Homerton to help with all of the coronavirus. And so I sent her the scrubs and I was like, well, I'm really sorry. And she kept them for today. I don't think today she's working on the ICU ward because she's like, I don't want to get them messy. I'm like, don't worry about that. Like, they can be washed. Like, and she's like, no. So she, bless her, she put all this lovely makeup on and like wore her new scrubs and sent me a photo this morning of her in them. I'll have to ask her if I can share the photo. And she's just sent a message now saying, everyone's being really complimentary about my scrubs. Best feeling when you cheer somebody up with something like scrubs. But no. Ooh, I'm getting some pleats in there. I seem to have gone from centimetre and now I seem to be going closer to 1.5 centimetres. So I'm waffling. I think I'm going to have to snip into mine to release it. I do usually need to do that anyway, but you do usually need to do that anyway, but sometimes. Oh, I'm missing out on this retreat chat, but I will let Rosie collate that information. No doubt we'll be discussing it in a team meeting soon. Ooh. I mean, I was meant to come to the States this summer. Obviously, that's not going to happen anymore. So next year, I'm hoping I'll be able to go to the States. And we'd ask customers where they were, and we also looked at. You can look at Google Analytics, and you can look at the geo mapping of where everyone is. And basically, in the States, it was New York, Texas, California, and then a little bit up towards kind of Portland, Oregon way. So yeah, I was like, I don't know if I can do all of those areas in one trip. But I didn't really know. I think what I hadn't really thought is what was I going to do whilst I was there. So obviously it would be amazing to do some kind of US based retreat. That would be fab, where we could sew together and make things. Or I even thought of like I could travel and do the Sewalong lives, pick Oregon, do the, I mean, yeah, I thought 3 locations I could probably manage with. But yeah, Sewalong lives and do them from different locations with you guys there, and we could all be sewing, you know, I could find some kind of centre that had space and everyone could bring their sewing machines and I could kind of sit up at the front with the microphone on, but also streaming. How fun would that be? And then those of you that, you know, could join in and be sewing as well. I'd be like, guys, we're sewing along live this evening from Houston. Anyway, hope, Rosie, you're making a note of all this excitingness. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how we would go about organising a retreat in the States. It'd be quite hard for us to do that from here, but where there's a will go, there's a way, isn't there? I guess all you need is you need some kind of hotel that's up for, sorry guys, yeah, it's up for hosting you. Sorry, I am snipping every 2 centimetres. Thank you. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to press it up towards the facing. How are we doing for time? Oh, we're good. Okay. Let's press that up. So I'm pressing the seam allowance up towards the facing in preparation for the understitching. So understitching time. So what we're going to do, we are going to be stitching 2 or 3 millimeters from the seam there. So the seam, so I've got the groove of the press foot on the seam and I've just moved my needle over to the right and I'm stitching along the facing, anchoring the seam allowance and therefore holding the facing inside the trousers. I think, guys, on the retreat thing, I think we need to do one over this way, so one somewhere in the UK for like Europe, and then one in the US. So after the UK, most of our customers are in the US, so I think it goes UK, US, Canada and Germany. Oh no, Australia. Obviously all English speaking, but I think Germany is the most customers that are from a non-English speaking country, interestingly. Funny, I was actually asked before lockdown, and I don't think it's going to materialise now. Certainly, I don't know who would want to go on a cruise ship at the moment. But I was asked if I'd be interested in going on a cruise to run sewing workshops on the cruise in the Caribbean. No, that would be awful. But yeah, that's not going to happen now. We were only in initial discussions about it, but you know, I have a column with Prima. And can I just check what you're sewing down there? Yes, of course. Here, that's the seam allowance. That's been stitched down and that's it there. Okay? Right. So now I'm going to press this so that the facing sits on the inside. So what you're doing is you're rolling the top waistband, the waist seam just over like that. So the facing, what we want, we don't want to see the facing. We want to let that sit inside. Oops, daisies. Okay, I'm now just going to pin this because we need to do some hand finishing. So I thought I could do that with you because hems we've done already. It's more important that we talk through that. So that's how it looks on the inside with the understitching. Okay, and now I'm going to find all the points where there are darts, so where I can anchor the facing down. And there's quite a few darts here, especially on the back, and you've got the side seams. So these are all points that we can use to anchor the facing inside. Oops. Side seam there, dart here, dart there, Yeah, it was so funny when I was telling my this is a few months ago, about this cruise, and I said, oh, and she said, well, would you be going with someone? I said, oh yeah, I would probably. Maybe I'd take Molly, who is my PA, and because I know that Molly and I can then do other work along, whilst we're there. Mum's like, no, I want to go. I was like, but Mum, you don't like sewing. I don't care. I'll sit up on the deck of the ship. I'm going. I'm your mother. You owe me. So it's like, okay, Mum. If I did this, you can come. Okay, getting a needle, guys. So we're going to take a single thread. So by a single thread, that means we're going to thread it singly, and then we're not going to tie the two ends together. We're just going to leave one end loose, like that, and knot in the end. Okay, so right, we are going to stitch. Oh, thank you. We are going to stitch now. I'm going to slip stitch the facing to the back onto the zip tape. Okay, it's really hard for me to show you what I'm doing here. I'm slip stitching. Rosie, have we done a slip stitching video on Stitch School? Just said, someone asked, said, who would I say are more like, there was a question there and I missed it. It was like, Lisa, I don't know if I can see the questions still. Oh yeah. Who would you say you're more like, Lisa, your mum or your dad? Do you mean to look at, Tina? What do you mean in terms of personality? I think I have my mum's shaped face and her bone structure. A personality. Ooh, I'm a proper half and half, I think. I'm like my mum in that I like things tidy and together, and I don't like being late for things. And my mum was a very hard worker. I think I get my work ethic from her. My mum's very funny as well. I mean, my sister's funnier than I am. I wouldn't say I'm the funniest in the but that's where I get my sense of humour from. My dad, we're very similar in that we're very, like, we get things done. If we say we're going to do something, we do it. And we're both very quite practical and creative. That's where that's kind of come from my dad. My dad used to run his own business, so I've got that interest as well. That's from my dad. So yeah, I'm a mix of the two, really. And as it turns out, as we've seen, Dad's a natural on the camera, isn't he? So maybe I got that from him. Liking being on the camera. He doesn't like his photo being taken particularly, but he was very at ease with me filming him around his garden, but I guess that's his happy place. Okay, so now I'm just anchoring. So when I'm anchoring, what I'm doing is I am just stitching, little over stitching like this. Like that. Who does Jazz take after? Well, I don't know yet. She's definitely a strong character, but then Matt and I are both quite strong characters in different ways. And I think she's quite stubborn, and I think she's got that from me. We've got photos of me when I was her age on a walk, refusing to walk. And there's like this, I'm in the distance in these woods, and I'm just standing there like this. And Mum and Dad said that I used to just do that, and they used to have to just go back and get me because I just would not budge. I think Jasmine might have that. Oh. Okay. And now, but she's like me in the way that she's very affectionate, Jasmine. I'm a very affectionate person. I love giving people a hug. And so I'm always cuddling Jazzy, but she's the same. She'll just come, like when I was working with her here, when she was here, and Mum and Dad would kind of looking after her. Every so often, Dad would or Mum would just bring her in and be like, "Oh, is everything okay?" She'd like, "Yeah, Mummy, I just want a hug." And they'd be like, "She's just come in for a cuddle," and she'd literally come up to me, give me a cuddle and a kiss, and then just walk out. So sweet. Can't wait to see her. I'm really missing her now. Obviously I was missing her before, I'm really missing her now. But anyway, I'm going to be making our house very nice and lovely for us, so that will keep me going. I'm getting so excited about seeing her reaction. I'm so excited about having Poppy and Coco back together. I feel like I'm going to cry when that moment, when we're all just back there together on Monday. I'm just going to be like, we did it. We went through another very difficult period, but we did it, and we're here in our new home. Okay, I'm not telling you about sewing, sorry. So let me show you what I've done here. I'm just catching it. Okay, so I've got another one here. So I'm just going up through the dart and then up through the edge of the facing, and then just going round and round and round and round like that. About 4 or 5 times is enough. It's not taking loads of strain, so that's fine. Okay. And then we have got that one. How therapeutic is hand sewing? Oh my goodness, I could just sit so calmly and quietly and just hand sew. And it just soothes you. It really, really does. You know, that's why I used to have on my walls in the first shop that I had, sewing soothes the soul. What's my favourite Indian dish? I love a butter chicken. I love saag paneer. I love paneer dishes. I love thalis, really. I think because of the variety. I'm a big fan of a thali, and that's when I was in India last. That's all I had were thalis and chapatis or rotis. Oh, yeah. And dal. Love dal. Not a huge spicy fan, so nothing too spicy, and also nothing too heavy, which is, you know, people think Indian food is heavy. But... oh, as much as you like. Thanks, Sal. Oh yeah, I'll show you that again in a second, Caroline. And just 1 second, let me do this bit and then I'll show you it. The magic trick, putting a knot up close to the fabric, although it's very hard to show without a overhead. I was wondering if like there's any way that we can get an overhead camera to help with the live. I don't know how we'd do that. We probably need another person here switching, but it would be amazing, wouldn't it? Okay, so what can I do if I put it on here? There we go. Okay. So what we're gonna, so I'm gonna tie, oh no, Mr. Trouser. No. I'm gonna stand up. So, for you, Caroline, you take, can you see the thread? I don't know, you tie your knot in the thread like that. And then you get the knot about that big. Can you see the size of it there? Sorry, it's hard to show. And then you put the needle into the knot and push it down at the same time as tightening so that the knot gets smaller. And right when it hits the fabric, it should be tightest, and then you just pull the needle out. That was a bit clearer than what it's usually been. Okay, I've got 1, 2, 3 little bits to go. I'll finish this with you guys. So whilst we're doing this, I'll just talk about the hem. So the hem is, what you need to do is overlock or zigzag that. And it's important, especially with, if you're doing the palazzo pants, that you have a nice big hem. You can see it here. In fact, I'll show you that hem in a second and how to look at it closely, because the hem being wide will help them hang properly. You need the wide hem for it to hang properly. If you had a little flimsy narrow hem, it would just be a bit fly away. So that's why we always have a more substantial hem on trousers usually, unless they're tight fitting like the ultimate trousers, because they're like capris, so it's not about them hanging. It's not a drapey fabric, is it? But yeah, anything where you really need it to hang well, you do need to have the weight of a hem. And in wedding dresses, we sometimes put weights in the hem, especially if they're, you know, big skirts, and just to get the hem to sit properly. We used to put weights in, like you put on the bottom of curtains. Okay, penultimate. So this is my last little dart, and then I'm going to do some slip stitching along the back of the zip there. Sorry, there was a question and just discovered I can do this. What do people use for weights? You buy them from haberdashery shops. They're actually kind of called weights for curtains. Okay, so I'm now at the facing, and I'm going to do a slip stitch along here, and you're not going to be able to see. I'm really sorry. Yeah, I have. Yeah, I haven't used it in Betty, but I've used it in wedding dresses. I've put it on, I made a Zibelline wedding dress, and I used the kind of horsehair, very wide braid to hold the hem out. In papery fabric, so Zibelline's like a even more luxurious kind of, it's heavier than, it's almost like a twill weave, and it's heavier than taffeta and dupion, but it's got that crunchiness, and so it doesn't hold the shape. So yeah, it was important for that. Okay, It's at the top here. I'm just going to do a few stitches around just to try and keep this annoying bit of zip down. Okay, right, so we are now, we did it guys, didn't we? Very good. So here they are. Slightly worried that waist is a little bit narrow, especially after Corona lockdown. I'm sure I'm not the only person that has got a little bit more of a tum since we've been on lockdown. So they look very long, don't they? But I need to try them on. So I'm going to overlock those. Then I am going to press them up at least about 4 centimetres like that. And I am going to do just a hand hemming stitch. You see it like that? And so that basically you take a very, very tiny amount, like, let me just see if I can show you. Like that amount when you're on the trouser side. And then it doesn't show through. Okay. Right. There we go, guys. That is it for this week. So like I said, I will try and get some photos of these. It might not get these photographed, so I was just thinking I've got to then try them on and hem them, and I don't know if I'll get around to doing that, but I will see. And then next week, I've already talked you through what we're doing, so I'll be somewhere next week trying to do this. If there's whatever reason there's a disaster and I can't do it because of the house or Jazzy or whatever, keep an eye on Instagram. And yes, I am going to be doing the live on the sewing bee tonight. So we're going to watch the sewing bee, and then at 10 o'clock I'll be on Instagram live. Yeah, tune in to see what I think of the sewing bee. And I think Elisa Lex from By Hand London might be joining me for a little bit of it as well. So guys, enjoy the rest of your weeks. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you to those of you who have donated. It really makes a difference to us. So thank you very much for supporting us. And I'll see you next week. Thanks. Oh, and thanks for all the good luck wishes, guys. Bye.